I'm Heather, and my question was the importance of wood duck management and how we can best ensure higher survival rate.
And I'm Janae, and mine was also on wood ducks, and it was about brood parasitism in the Cache River wetlands, and what locations of nests are most susceptible to brood parasitism.
And we were going to do this separately, although we had Doug to share because he was the wood duck guy. However, when you see our results, you'll see why we just went ahead and did it together instead of hearing the same thing twice. We decided to pick wood ducks. I have a 5-acre pond in my house. My husband's an avid hunter, and when he came in to speak to us about wood ducks, kind of piqued my interest. When we got married, we put a wood duck box out on our pond and expecting to see wood ducks, and so I just saw the importance behind it with hunting in our community and things like that.
And when I was listening about our presentation this spring about wood ducks, as he was talking, I think it was Dr. Echoes, he was saying a lot of things that I could connect with my 5th grade curriculum, adaptations and habitat, and I started to see all these things I could bring back to my classroom. So that piqued my interest. Also, when you hear about SIU getting funding to study different topics, you know, sometimes you think to yourself, well, who would give you the money to study a bunch of wood ducks? And so it was really interesting to find out how the economy of Southern Illinois is really connected with wood ducks and how it generates so much money for businesses around here. And I started saying, wow, I'm starting to see the importance from a business perspective too.
Which most of you know, we both teach 5th grade at Heron, so. All right, and then just real quick, wood ducks obviously love the wetlands because of their water filtration. They store the floodwaters. They're valuable habitat for the wood duck survival, and there's some pictures of the cache.
And these are our pictures too. So most of the pictures in the slideshow are ones that we took while we were out. I was the official photographer. And this is just some background that I spoke to you about in the spring, that wood ducks were always very abundant. And then in the early 20th century, they started to become extinct. So that's when they started passing laws to protect wood ducks. And that's also when, after these laws were implemented and the population started to come back up, they started making wood duck boxes, which is what we used in our study.
All right, and then wood ducks prefer caverns, which is down here where the little wood duck is jumping out of, and then wood duck boxes, which is here, and Julie was our photographer here at this one. We want you to notice that Doug's smiling because it's early in the day. He got to take us in the woods all day, and by the end, you'll see a picture of Doug. He's not smiling.
And then the far picture is one of the wood ducks boxes that I was checking. So you can see I'm on the ladder that this really did happen. So it's an example. Wood ducks thrive in bottomland forests, swamps, and freshwater marshes. They like to nest near trees near water. And this is a picture that I took, although you can't see it very well, but when we were on Wetlands Swamp, this is a wood duck box right here. And so you can see that that's a good place to put a wood duck box. And you may see them when you are out enjoying the wetlands.
So we're actually canoeing, and
right.
So we're canoe over and check the wood duck box. All right. So population. After the ducklings hatch, they jump down from the nest. The mother makes noises, can jump tremendous heights, which is why we didn't end up doing the caverns, because Doug said there were some out there, but they were so high that you need special equipment to get to them, and we were like, that's all right. We'll just check the wood duck boxes. Which, I mean, he had 4 sites, and he had 100 wood duck boxes in each site, each 100 yards apart. Meters apart, thank you. 100 meters apart. So quite a big coverage area, and a lot for us to check.
So that's okay. On our study site, what we decided to check with our advisor was to check 10 wood duck boxes in the upper cache and 10 wood duck boxes in the lower cache. In order to determine which boxes to check, they were each numbered 1 through 100. As you'll see in some of the pictures, they're just spray painted with a number. It was just to use a Microsoft Excel program and have it randomly generate the numbers for us. So it wasn't skewed by our opinion. As hard as we tried to
to
get
say,
Doug
there's one right there. Go
we would
just
see
check
one
it.
and didn't get to check it because it wasn't on the list, and we'd
Right.
say, just do it. And he'd say, respect the,
The
process.
science.
So
Respect the process.
that kind of became the joke, to respect the science. So we got a lesson.
All right, so my study, there, again, is my question, the importance of wood duck management and the survival. So my objective was determine the best placement. I wanted to know if it was better to place wood duck boxes over open water to help reduce predators, or if it was best to put them on land to help reduce predators. I hypothesized that the ones in the water would have a better population of wood ducks because it would be harder for the predators to get to them. So then I checked the wood duck boxes to see if the eggs had been disturbed or broken. You know, if a predator goes in, it might not eat all of the eggs, it might just eat some of them, break the eggs. A snake might swallow the eggs, things like that. So that's how I was going to check for predation.
And my objectives were to determine if brood parasitism was actually occurring in the Cache River. And I felt like by studying this, I could see it as a biological indicator, basically telling me the health of the wetlands. I hypothesized that if there is a limited amount of desired nesting locations, that they would have brood parasitism, and that nesting sites that were available previous years might have higher levels of, higher rates of brood parasitism.
And the brood parasitism, oh, sorry.
So I used a ladder to climb up to the nest, pull back any down feathers, and count the number of eggs. I was going to record how many eggs and the location, and then if it's over 12, 12 is kind of that magical number to use. If it was over 12, it would be considered brood parasitism.
So here's a chart that we made on Excel, and randomly again, the box numbers were selected for Section 8 or Heron Pond, and we have the box numbers, whether it was predation, no predation, other, meaning what we did find in the nest, over water, by land, or if it was empty.
We actually had to, we had
empty. We were
add
under
empty.
the assumption we'd see all these wood ducks. When we got back, we had to add that column.
And this is our research team that we set out with this week, or last week. And we just thought this was interesting because, again, look at Doug in the morning and Heather and Janae looking very, well put together. By the end of the day, no smile on Doug's face. We're in ponytails and sweating at this point. So this was kind of a side of our team.
Our first location, as Connie went into Section 8, we also got to go through Section 8. And it was so fun. We pulled up and there was like a nice bridge and a pathway, and we're like, oh, this will be fun. And Doug literally just turns to the left and walks straight through the woods, and we're like, ah! There's a path up here if you want to go this way. And he just has this GPS locator just following it around, and then we realized we were in trouble.
And this was our favorite site. This was, we like to brag on Doug because this was what we saw the entire time, was Doug walking, and this is a ladder. So we may have been complaining, but he was carrying this ladder for us through the entire experience. And there's Heather checking one of her boxes. You can see a 36 here. Kind of tells you, that's how we located them and knew what box we were on. Our second site was at Heron Pond, and it was in the upper cache. And again, we used a ladder and the GPS system that SIU had. We started just kind of sightseeing other things that were going on. In our spring semester, I commented, I think in class one day, that we learned about so many things, and the problem was that I hadn't seen them in real life. So we really got that out of this experience, was learning about things and then actually seeing where they were, what they look like in real life. So we got to see the champion cherry bark oak tree here, so now we know.
All right. We found 0 wood duck nests in Heron Pond and in Section 8. We did find a Carolina wren with 1 egg in Section 8. And we found 1 wood duck box that had evidence that it was previously predated, but Doug said not to use that evidence because the wood duck wasn't there anymore. It was such an old nest. He was such a good sport, though. even our last wood duck box, he was like, knock, and so we knock on the box, and so it might fly out. Of course, he's checked 400 boxes like every other week since February, so he knows there's no wood
I think
duck.
he was getting us back for carrying the
I
ladder.
think so too. He would flinch, but needless to say.
So then we get to why did these results happen? Because that's kind of the road we had to take. Since our results were basically 0, you start to say, well, why were they 0? So this kind of gets into some of our discussions on why we were having these results. One is that the female wood duck, when she's ready to lay her nest, she has to have a lot of protein. And you may remember that from our field trip we took back in March when Doug talked about that. And so they're needing all these aquatic insects, and they're needing this high protein. And because of the lack of water, there may have been fewer insects. And so I kind of use these pictures here. This is really my boots in mud here. So he said normally there would be about 4 feet of water, 4 or 5 feet of water in this area. This is section 8, and that he would have to wear waders. And when he was putting the box up, he had to pull his wood duck boxes along in the water. And you can see there is no water here. This is just pure sludge and mud. And this is Heather, and I think someone else made the comment, this happened to them. This is mud up to her thigh. So there's no water. It's just pure mud, and so obviously there's not going to be invertebrates in the area there. So we were talking about future studies, just to kind of feed off that. That is Doug's study he's doing now, is to study whether or not these insects are there, so they can see if that's why the wood ducks haven't arrived. So that is a future study that's already being done.
Or like Connie, I don't know if I would go back to section 8
Yeah.
ever again. It was like that the entire.
It's unimaginable if
we
you've
would
not been there.
Look at our box and be like, I have to walk to box 65. Are you sure? There's 12 right there.
The biggest joke was we know where to bury the body because they would never find it.
And anytime Doug would get too far ahead of us, we'd stop joking with him again, like, please don't leave us. We promise not to make fun of you.